The silence lasts exactly 4 seconds. That is how long it takes for every sailor in the USS Gerald R. Ford's Combat Information Center to understand what they are looking at on the sonar display. 3 separate contacts, 3 different bearings, 1 American aircraft carrier sitting directly in the middle. This is not a coincidence. This is geometry drawn in black water by submarines that came here to kill. At 317 local time in the North Atlantic, the most advanced aircraft carrier ever built finds itself inside what may be the most sophisticated underwater ambush in modern naval history. 3 Russian nuclear attack submarines have slipped through the outer defensive screen and positioned themselves around the strike group like points on a triangle. 1 to draw attention, 1 to hold the flank, 1 waiting ahead with torpedo tubes that just opened in the dark. But here is what the Russians do not know yet. The trap they think they have set is about to become their own cage, because the US Navy has been waiting for exactly this moment for decades. And what happens in the next 40 minutes will rewrite everything we thought we knew about undersea warfare. The first contact appears at bearing 084 as nothing more than a whisper of cavitation caught by a destroyer's passive sonar. 6 seconds of mechanical noise, then silence. That silence is worse than the noise because it means the submarine knows it has been heard. It knows when to stop. It knows how to disappear beneath the thermal layers where sound bends away from American sensors. Professional crews do not make accidental noise. Contact 2 emerges at bearing 271, moving slowly along the edge of the formation, not approaching directly, not retreating, pacing, like a predator matching the speed of its prey while staying just outside striking distance. The sonar operator runs the signature twice before calling it in. Russian pump jet propulsion, nuclear powered, built for exactly this kind of deep water stalking. Then contact 3 appears directly ahead of the Ford's projected path. Deeper than the others, quieter, and positioned with mathematical precision to intercept the carrier if it maintains course. This submarine is not scouting, it is not gathering intelligence, it is waiting for a firing solution. And at 324, every sailor in the CIC hears the sound that changes everything. A metallic click echoing through the water. Short, sharp, deliberate. The sound of a torpedo tube door opening beneath the surface. The Ford does not turn away. That is the first message. American aircraft carriers do not flinch because enemy submarines want them to. Instead, the 90,000-ton warship maintains course while her escorts begin shifting into positions that look casual, but are anything but random. 1 destroyer slides between the suspected torpedo bearing and the carrier. Another widens the sonar field to prevent any submarine from approaching undetected. The formation tightens without appearing to tighten. Within minutes, an MH-60R Seahawk lifts from the carrier's deck and disappears into the darkness. This helicopter is not built for rescue missions. It carries dipping sonar, sonobuoys, magnetic anomaly detection equipment, and if necessary, torpedoes designed specifically to hunt submarines. Tonight, its first weapon is not explosive, it is certainty. The crew needs to know exactly what is hiding beneath the surface before anyone makes a decision that cannot be undone. At 325, the 3rd submarine makes its move. A high-speed acoustic signature tears through the sonar displays like a blade. The operator's voice cuts across the circuit with words that freeze every conversation in the Combat Information Center. Possible weapon in the water. Bearing 092 closing. In undersea warfare, those 6 words change everything. A torpedo does not announce itself with sirens. It does not give warnings. It simply moves through the dark water at 40 knots toward whatever target its guidance system has been programmed to find. The destroyer reacts within seconds, launching acoustic countermeasures into the water. These are not just noisemakers, they are sophisticated decoys that mimic the sound signature of a surface ship. To an incoming torpedo, a properly deployed countermeasure can sound more like a destroyer than the destroyer itself. The weapon turns toward the false target, accelerates, then passes beneath it without detonating. No explosion, no impact. The threat dissolves into background noise. But everyone in the Ford CIC understands what just happened. This was not a failed torpedo attack. It was a probe disguised as an attack. The Russians forced the US Navy to reveal its defensive timing, its countermeasure procedures, its escort movement patterns, and its command discipline under pressure. They waved a knife close enough to see who would flinch and how quickly they would flinch when the blade came near their throat. The fatal mistake was not the probe itself. The mistake was what the launch cost them. To fire anything from beneath the surface, the Russian submarine had to move, had to open, had to expose mechanical noise that American sensors captured in perfect detail. Contact 3 was no longer a ghost moving through thermal layers. It had become a track with speed, bearing, depth estimate, and acoustic signature. The hunter had revealed itself to be hunted. The P-8 Poseidon arrives at 345, racing low over the Black Atlantic with a mission that extends far beyond this single engagement. Its crew begins dropping sonobuoys in calculated patterns, not just around the immediate threat, but along every escape route the Russian submarines might use to withdraw. Each buoy becomes an ear in the ocean, feeding sound back through data links that connect the aircraft, the helicopter, the destroyers, and the carrier into a single listening network. The ocean is still dark, but it is no longer silent. Then comes the message that changes the entire dynamic. A short burst transmission from beneath the surface, not from the carrier, not from the escorts, but from an American fast attack submarine that has been shadowing the formation without ever announcing its presence. Contact classified. Russian nuclear attack submarine tracking. The Russians thought they were operating in darkness. They were wrong. One of their hunters has been followed by another hunter that moves through the deep without making a sound. The geometry shifts. Contact 1 abandons its decoy run and turns east. Contact 2 slows on the western flank, no longer pressing toward the formation. Contact 3, the submarine that exposed itself during the launch, begins a careful descent toward deeper water. The triangle is breaking apart. The coordinated attack that took weeks to plan and position is collapsing in minutes because the US Navy refused to give the Russians the single mistake they needed. A gap in the defensive screen. A moment of panic. A reason to fire first and identify targets later. At 352, the lead destroyer sends its first active sonar pulse into the water. That ping rolls through the Atlantic like a declaration written in pressure waves. We know where you are. We are not hiding anymore. Contact 2 is caught cleanly for the first time, painted from multiple angles as 2 destroyers coordinate their sonar coverage. The Russian submarine turns north, then northwest, no longer hunting but looking for distance between itself and the American sensors that have turned the ocean into a grid of acoustic surveillance. The Seahawk drops another line of sonobuoys across Contact 3's projected escape route. The aircraft sensor operator watches the pattern develop on his screen and sees something that makes him lean forward. The Russian submarine is trying to hide beneath the thermal layer again, using temperature and water density to bend sound away from surface sensors. It is a textbook move that works against careless opponents. But tonight, the Navy has sensors above the layer, near the layer, and below it in the form of an American submarine that adjusts its position without ever making a sound. By 401, the threat assessment is clear. Contacts opening range, no inbound weapons, carrier secure. The Ford remains on course through the North Atlantic, steady and deliberate, surrounded by escorts that never broke formation and never gave the enemy the chaos they came here to create. No torpedoes were fired by American forces, no missiles rose from the sea, no explosion marked the end of the encounter, just 3 Russian submarines being systematically pushed out of position by a carrier strike group that turned their ambush into an intelligence collection operation. But the real victory was not measured in distance or deterrence, it was measured in data. Every sound those submarines made while under pressure has been recorded, analyzed, and filed away in acoustic libraries that will recognize their signatures the next time they enter contested waters. The Russians came looking for a firing solution and left behind fingerprints written in cavitation, shaft rotation, and machinery noise. They revealed how they move, how they accelerate, how they hide, and how they react when the hunt turns back on them. That is the part of this story that matters most. Modern naval warfare is not just about sinking ships or shooting down aircraft. It is about information, position, and the patience to collect intelligence while maintaining control. The USS Gerald R. Ford did not defeat 3 Russian submarines by outgunning them. It defeated them by refusing to react the way they expected, by holding formation when they wanted chaos, by tracking silently when they needed noise, and by turning their own aggression into data that will follow them through every ocean they enter for years to come. So here is the question that should keep you awake tonight. If 3 enemy submarines positioned themselves around an American carrier and one of them launched what appeared to be a torpedo, would you have fired back immediately? Or would you have done exactly what the US Navy did? Stay quiet, hold the formation, map every sound they made, and let them retreat with the knowledge that they had just been completely outmaneuvered in the deep, because the answer to that question determines whether you understand naval power or whether you just think you do.